Hey there, it's Carrie Rhodes here. Welcome back to my YouTube channel and another card making video. This is episode 3 of my Stamp Set of the Month series for May. I am featuring the stamp set from Concord & Ninth called Painted Peonies, and today I am making some cards that have a vintage feel and trying to use only this stamp set, nothing else. I'm also adding a touch of embossing to my flowers, and they look super cute, all layered up with a touch of gold. All right, so we're gonna start that in just a minute, but you should know there is a giveaway. Concord & Ninth is sponsoring my series this month and is giving away a $25 shopping spree to their store. All you have to do to enter is leave a comment on all 4 of the videos in this series. If you missed the first 2, I have them linked for you below, and there will be one more episode after this next week. My episodes come out every Tuesday at 8 p.m. right here on this channel. Okay, so now that we got that out of the way, we're gonna go ahead and jump in and start stamping. Okay, I have a piece of paper here that is 4 3/4 by 6 3/4. I'm going to stamp my own background using this largest leaf in this layering stamp set. So this is the most solid image for this leaf, and I'm going to stamp that in a lighter color ink. That way when I stamp the detailed layer over the top, I can use a darker ink and it will show up. This is Frayed Leaf ink from Altenew, and I'm just going to stamp this randomly all over my paper. I am using an acrylic block, so it just goes faster to turn the stamp as I stamp it, and I made sure my ink pad was juicy. I also like to stamp it on my MISTI with that foam mat in there because it has the right amount of cushion for stamping. So I like that. Next, I am coming in with Everglade ink, I believe, Evergreen. I'm going to link it for you below, and stamping the detailed layer of this. So I wanted you to see that it is possible to do the layering stamping for this set using an acrylic block. Now I did find I line it up best when the stem is facing me, but also it is not that detailed of a stamp that it looks horrible if you don't get it exactly lined up. So you can see I have some that aren't exactly lined up, and it's not the end of the world. Sometimes it feels like it, but I don't think it's that bad if you don't line them up exactly, especially for a background. So there is the finished background. I'm going to do the same exact thing using the smaller leaf in this set, and that's going to give me a completely different background. Now, I'm really glad I did this because at some point in making this card, things are going to go horribly wrong. Somebody mentioned the other day that they've never seen me make a bad card, so I thought I'd leave it in here. I thought you would want to see my ugly card. And I'll tell you when things start to go wrong. And then you can tell me what you think. So I'm using the same exact colors on these leaves as I did on the previous one, and just stamping out the detailed layer here to finish off my second background. I thought I was going to make 2 cards, but you know, when things take a turn, you have to go with it. So this will actually be the background that I end up using for my card. Next, I'm going to stamp out the flower. So I'm taking the solid most stamp in this layering set, and today I am inking it up with Honey Drizzle as my first color. So if you watched my previous video, I used Altenew inks because they come in sets of 4 from lightest to dark. Well, Honey Drizzle happens to be the darkest color in the Pocket of Sunshine collection. I stamped it there 3 times, and you'll see in a minute what color I used to layer on that. But I also wanted to stamp it with this maple yellow, and I stamped that 3 times to get really saturated ink. Now for the second stamping, this is the stamp that has a little bit less solid area than the previous image that I stamped. So now I'm stamping that with this almond butter ink pad. So it's really kind of a golden brown color, a very light brown, and that is going to be my second layer. Now here I thought, oh, I do not like this. I am not sure about this. Now remember, I am trying to go for a vintage feel for my cards today, so I thought the yellow and brown and gold together would be so cool. And in the end, I do actually end up liking it, which is one thing I've learned in stamping, that sometimes you have to just keep going and not give up. I do like the almond butter much better over this honey drizzle color, this darker yellow. I thought it looked super cool. But in the end, once that ink kind of dries and soaks into the paper and settles down, I like them both. So another reason to keep going. Next, I am putting on the most detailed stamp. So this has the least amount of rubber surface area as far as the stamp goes. It's going to stamp the most detail, so I'm going to use my darkest color. But in today's stamping, that darkest color is actually going to be clear ink because I'm embossing it with gold powder. So that'll be in place of my darkest color for my third stamping on this layering stamp. So I'm inking it up with Versamark ink, and then I'll bring in my gold embossing powder to add it to that. Now, I didn't quite wait long enough for the ink itself to dry, like the yellow and brown ink, so I did get a lot of excess powder where I didn't want it. Even though I used my anti-static powder tool bag there, it still stuck. So by the time I get to the lighter flowers that I'm doing right here, a lot less powder stuck to it because it had time to settle and dry. So I actually ended up liking the lighter of the two flowers the best, and that's what I'm going to use on my card. But I didn't throw away the ones that had a little excess powder on them. I do actually end up using them, so saving some what would normally be trash and telling myself it's okay. I can use that even though it has excess powder. So I'm going to die cut out these flowers, and you can see I stamped two more of the smaller flowers using that honey drizzle ink as my darker color. And then I'm going to stamp out this little branch piece, and I'm using some vanilla ink here, and then I'm going to stamp over the top of that with some hazelnut ink. So the vanilla ink, the hazelnut ink, and the almond butter are all in one collection, and the darkest color is milk chocolate. So it's a brown set, and I thought it would be so cool to have these branches in a really light buttery brown. Now I'm stamping out some leaves that I can die cut and also do that final stamping layer with gold embossing powder. So that's what I'm going to do here, and I learned my lesson. I let it dry a little bit before I came in with my embossing powder, and there are my green and gold leaves. I thought the touch of gold was very vintage, and I really like the look of it. So now I am going to stamp a sentiment on my background, as I just wanted to build up my background. This right here is where it went wrong. I should not have done this at all, but I'm using that hazelnut ink, and I'm also going to stamp some second generation, so the ink is stamped often a little bit lighter when I stamp it onto my paper. Now I'm taking that frayed leaf ink and dusting on some color around the edge using my Makeup Style blending brush. Now I loved this. This part I liked. It looks really cool. Here I go, adding more things. Some gold splatter. Now this is my type of thing. I love gold splatter. I love layering all kinds of things to make one background. But right here, I am adding all of my flowers. Now, in my defense, there was family members waiting for me to go swimming with them. So I was trying to, let me hurry up and finish my card and we'll all go swimming. Yeah, it didn't go well. This is what I don't like about this card. It is too busy. The background is busy. The flowers are busy. It's just too much. The flowers don't pop enough off of the background. And so I ripped it apart. I took off all the flowers. I used dental floss to get those branches off because they were the only thing glued down. The others were on with foam squares, and I was able to, like, very slowly, very strategically, very patiently peel them away from that background, and the background was the part that got kind of ripped. So that's why I brought in my second background with the smaller leaves. And then to mute that background a little bit, I added a piece of vellum, but it is about 3/4 of an inch smaller than my background, so you can still see some of those pretty leaves around the edge. And then I'm going to glue everything down. Now, the adhesive on the back of the foam squares was still really good. So once I liked where it was, I just pressed it down and then I glued those branches back on. And now I'm going to add glue behind that flower array, and then you can't see it when you glue it down. And you can see all the ripped up paper behind those foam squares, but no one will know except you and I. And I know I was going to keep it to just this stamp set, but I really wanted a touch of hot foiling. I love this set right here. It's for Crafty Friends. And that's what my sentiment says, that I'm going to hot foil Crafty Friends. So this is the Glimmer hot foil system. I've plugged it in and turned it on. And while I'm waiting for it to heat up, I'm going to use my quick trimmer and cut a piece of this polished brass foil so that it exactly fits my plate. So you can see the plate there, it looks like a die, but it's not a die. It presses the hot foil into the paper. So I'm going to cut this with my quick trimmer. You can see there was a blade there for foil and for paper. So you can use this trimmer for either. And it's really nice for cutting like skinny sentiment strips, and also for the foil. It's really nice. It's foil is so flimsy. It's kind of hard to cut nicely with your scissors. So it's a really great tool. All right, so now I'm going to tape my plate to my foil, which is pretty side up on my paper. And then I'm going to put that whole thing face down on my Glimmer hot foil system that's heated up, put the plates on top, and press the timer. When the timer goes off, I'm going to remove the entire platform from that machine and run it through my die cut machine, and it's pressing that hot foil into the cardstock. You can see that's hot to remove. So I'm using this new tool from Spellbinders to lift that off. It has a magnet in it and then a button that releases the magnet from the plate. So there you can see my sentiment, Crafty Friend. I'm going to die cut this out with a circle. And when you do that, make sure that your tape never touches the Glimmer hot foil, or it can make it less shiny. Next, I am taking a sentiment from our stamp set that says Miss You, and that's going to be stamped right above Crafty Friend, and I'm going to use that hazelnut ink and stamp that quite a few times. I think 3 times, just to really intensify that color, because it will dry back lighter and it is on colored cardstock. So there is my sentiment for my card. I think it turned out really good, and the fonts are very similar on the Miss You to similar to that Crafty Friend. So I glued that in place, and then I am going to tuck it under that branch. So it had to be lifted up again from its background. And then I glued a little bit of that over the circle. And then I just went in and added a little glue where I thought I might need it, which was under that leaf. And then under the circle where the sentiment was, I added a little glue too. Next, I have some gold gems. These are like, they're almost brown, but they have a metallic to them as well. And they are not super duper shiny. They're just really cool. And I thought they went really well with this vintage feel for my card. So do you think it has a vintage feel? And do you think it looks better now that I rescued it from that way too busy background, added in that vellum, and made a different sentiment that wasn't so grungy? But now I have this background, I don't really want to throw it away, even though it actually looks like trash. So I decided I was going to make a tag. Now in episode 1, I made a tag that went with my card. So I challenged myself to use this to make a tag, and I cut away this corner that wasn't as ripped up as the rest. But I have those fresh new edges that needed some ink, so I am going ahead and adding that to the fresh edges with that frayed burlap ink and my blending brush. Next, I thought I would round the corners, so I brought in my corner rounder and punched those so that all of the corners were rounded, and that tag is about 3 inches by, I believe, 4 inches, or 4 1/4. I should have paid attention to that. And now I brought in those flowers that had a little excess embossing powder on them, and I die cut the branch, just the die, with some vellum for an accent for my tag. And then I mounted that onto that same kind of mustardy yellow cardstock and ripped the bottom for added interest. I popped up the flower, glued on the vellum branches, added my smaller flower in the bottom corner, and then I also glued on one last branch up there at the top. And that is my card, my tag. I mean, I thought it needed some of those gold gems, so I added those on as well. And then I'll punch a hole at the top, and I'm going to add a mix of ribbon and twine. So I have this satin ribbon that's an oatmeal color, and I just cut off a piece and threaded it through there, and then I'm going to tie it with this it's jute cord, I believe. I got it at the Dollar Tree. It's like one of my favorite things from the Dollar Tree, and it's in a giant spool of it, really, and so it lasts a long time if you're a card maker. A little goes a long way, right? So I tied that, and now I'm just trimming off all the ends to complete my coordinating tag. There it is. But wait, that's not all. There's more. I took this scrap right here from my background, cut off 1/2 inch, and now I have a piece that I can accent the inside of my card. Just a fun little leafy border there that I thought looked kind of cool on the inside, so it's not so stark white. And then it coordinates with the tag. Now listen in and hear what my daughter Hannah thinks of this card.
Put it back on this thing.
Well, how'd my ugly card turn out?
Not as ugly.
Exactly. Oh my word. I would love to know what you think of today's projects and today's video. It was fun for me to recreate it and turn it into something that I like. So let me know your thoughts. I'd love to hear from you. If you are interested in any of the supplies, I do have them linked for you below, and make sure to leave a comment so you can be entered to win the $25 shopping spree to Concord and 9th. I'll be back again next Tuesday with episode 4. Happy stamping. Bye.